Sometimes people can get a little bit negative on people that consume a lot of content. They can be like, oh, people are just consuming and they're not doing anything. You know, I see this a lot with books. Some people will be like, oh, I'm going to read all the books, but then they don't implement what they've learned in the book. Or, you know, they're following all the right accounts on social media, but they're just watching and they're not actually taking action. And that can be really detrimental very much in our growth. Welcome to the Ambitious Introvert podcast. If you are new, I'm Emma-Louise. Thank you for tuning in. And if you are a regular listener, welcome back as ever. So this is going to be a really short, actionable episode. And I'm going to be sharing some tips that I invite you to implement so that you can start to carve out as much solitude as possible in your day as a busy, ambitious person. But before we get to that, a couple of things I want to share first. First, I want to share this quick story of my own growth, because I think it's always helpful when you see other people in a similar position or people that are maybe doing things that you want to do or have achieved something, and to see that it's not always perfect and it's not always linear. So I originally recorded this episode last Friday. It's now Tuesday as I'm talking. So I did this last Friday afternoon. It was my last task of the week. And I'd mapped out on paper what I was going to talk about. I sat down, I sat at the microphone. It was the best solo episode I have recorded in a long time. I felt so good. I felt my energy was good. I didn't trip up my words. It didn't need editing. It was great, except I hadn't pressed record. So 30 minutes later, I went, oh, now you would think after podcasting for 4 years, this wouldn't happen anymore, but not the case. Everyone makes mistakes. It's very common, especially for solo episodes, that people forget to hit record. And when I did it very early in the podcast, it would have crippled me. I'd have made it mean something. I'd have been like, I'm so stupid. I'm not cut out for this. I'd have made it mean something about like the episode, like, oh, that's not meant to go. I'm not meant to talk about that. Like, oh, I'd have created all these big stories around it, basically. And in fact, I just forgot to hit a button. So that was really interesting because I haven't done that for a while. And I could have been like, oh, it's the end of the week. And, you know, I just decided, I was like, do you know what? I don't have the energy to do it again. And it's not going to be that good if I do it straight away. So I decided just to leave it to this week. But I could have made it, you know, mean all kinds of things and kind of ended my week badly and beat myself up about it. But actually, I just laughed. I actually thought it was quite hilarious. So it just goes to show, as much as we grow and evolve, we are still human. We still make mistakes. We still do silly things. That doesn't mean anything about us. And we don't have to let it kind of affect what we do or how we think. So I just wanted to share that. The other thing which kind of ties into that I want to share is, in August, I'm going to make the podcast a little more collaborative. So we are going to do an Ask Me Anything August on the Ambitious Introvert. Now, back in 2020, I did 2 episodes like this where people sent in their questions. Back then, one was more kind of questions for me, more personal questions, and one was business-related questions because I was more in the business coaching space then. And actually, I got so many people like reach out and say that it was really valuable. I don't know why it's taken me this long to do it again, but as I was out on one of my walks the other day, we'll talk about this later in solitude, this idea dropped in of Ask Me Anything August. So we're going to go with it. So basically, ask me anything. What would you like to know? So whether it is asking me about my own growth and journey, whether it's asking me about my own energy, mindset, habits, practices, anything like that, or whether you would like coaching. Let me coach you for free in August. Whether you have a question, whether you're struggling with something, whether you're stuck about something, whether you would like a reframe or a different perspective on something, maybe you would like some questions around something so that you can look at it from a different angle and feel into it. You can ask me anything in August, and I'm really excited to dive into anything that you send my way. So to do this, you're going to email me hello@theambitiousintrovert.com. That's hello@theambitiousintrovert.com. And just pop Ask Me Anything August in the subject line and ask away. And then I will do, depending how many responses I get, 1 or 2 episodes in August answering these questions and sharing whatever it is that you would like to find out about, or sharing whatever kind of coaching questions and wisdom might be helpful to you around your specific topic. Now, this will, of course, be anonymous, so don't worry about sending something in and thinking, oh, I'm going to read your name out. Not going to happen. It will be completely anonymous, but I really love to be able to collaborate, and I really love to be able to involve listeners in the process. So I'm very excited. So please submit your question. Again, that's hello@theambitiousintrovert.com, and just pop Ask Me Anything August in the subject line so that we know you are writing in about the podcast. Okay, so without further ado, let me move along to this, like I say, very short but very actionable episode. And on that note, something else I was thinking about the other day is sometimes people can get a little bit negative on people that consume a lot of content. They can be like, oh, people are just consuming and they're not doing anything. I see this a lot with books. Some people will be like, oh, I'm going to read all the books, but then they don't implement what they've learned in the book. Or, they're following all the right accounts on social media, but they're just watching and they're not actually taking action. And that can be really detrimental very much in our growth. However, by listening to this podcast and other podcasts like this, you are actually expanding your brain to see what's possible, because you're hearing about other people's success. You're hearing different concepts and ideas that might make you question things. You are also listening to elevated conversations when people have guests and they're having conversations that might challenge you or might bring you a new perspective. And most of all, it's repetition. Your neural pathways are being set with different thoughts, different beliefs, different ideas, just from tuning in and listening. So yes, overconsumption without action can be a problem, but actually with a medium like podcasting, when you're listening regularly, it's really, really beneficial. It's really, really helpful. And also, if this is kind of 15 or 30 minutes that you are not scrolling social media or not doing some other kind of behavior that maybe isn't as apt to your growth, then that's even better. So all of that to say, give yourself some credit for the fact that you are choosing to spend your time listening in to podcasts like this. Even if you don't do anything with it, you are still literally changing your brain. However, I'm going to invite you today to do at least one thing from the 3 that I'm going to suggest, at least one of them. So this is me coaching you to take action as well as listen. Now, as an introvert, solitude is key. Solitude is the thing that will give you the competitive edge. Solitude is where you recharge your battery back to full. This is literally the thing that differentiates us from extroverts, right? So we all know that time alone, going inwards to recharge, is the key to owning our energy and the key to reaching our potential, the key to becoming exceptional, the key to all of those things that we want for ourselves. Now, we also know that life is busy. If you are ambitious and you have a busy career, if you are an entrepreneur or a founder running your own business, it's not always a ton of time, especially if you have family, especially if you share a house with other people, you travel a lot for work. All of these things can really impact the amount of time that we get on our own. And that is a very real thing, right? However, this is where we need to prioritize our energy, and we need to step up and carve out time for ourselves to be alone, time to enjoy solitude, time to recharge. Now, we hear a lot about people like Bill Gates going on Think Week every year, or people going off on, a silent meditation for 10 days. And all of these things are obviously wonderful if that's accessible to you, which it is not for most of us. But it's been shown over and over again, especially when it comes to things like meditation, that a small, daily, consistent practice is actually more beneficial and creates bigger change in the brain than just taking out, say, 10 days twice a year and doing really intense silent meditation and then not doing anything in between. And I truly believe that the same is true for solitude. I think if you took yourself off to a desert island on your own for a month and didn't speak to anyone, you would feel amazing. But then if you came back and you lived the other 11 months of the year as normal without taking time out for yourself, you're not going to see the benefits. However, if you can take 15 minutes a day, every day alone, which is a chunk of time that is accessible to everyone and doesn't require any travel and doesn't require a big financial investment, if you can do that, even if you could do that 3 or 4 days a week, you will see a significant difference over time, much more so than if you were taking it all in one big block. And so, how do busy people find solitude in their everyday lives when they are ambitious, when they have careers, businesses, families, all of the things? So these are 3 ways that I actually accidentally, in the first 2 cases, carved out solitude for myself. One of them before I even realized I was an introvert, but I just knew that I needed silence, basically. I knew that I needed 0 stimulation. So these are 3 ways that I have done it and continue to do it, but that you can easily adapt into your everyday life. At least one of these will fit in and work for you. I guarantee it. So without further ado, solidify your commitment and see which one of these you are going to commit to implementing. So number 1, this is the first one that I did. I didn't really realize I was an introvert, but what I did realize, even though I didn't have words for it, is that when I finished work as an air traffic controller sometimes, after a really, really busy shift, I was really overstimulated. Not surprising, right? I've been using my brain in a very intense way for 8 hours in quite a busy, noisy room with lots of visual stimulus, lots of noise, high pressure, all of that. And I would get in the car to drive home and I would just turn the radio off and drive home in silence because I just craved it. And I love music. I adore music. I love podcasts. I was definitely in my earlier adult years, someone that always had music on and was always had podcasts queued and in the car, these things were on rotation. And I still enjoy those things. But I realized that when I drove, I was almost in kind of a hypnotic state where I'm just concentrating on the driving and the road, and having silence just felt really good. To this day, I don't drive very often now. If I do, 99 times out of 100, I am driving in silence. It's one of the easiest ways to carve out some time on your own without stimulus, because for most people, there is a point that they are in the car alone at some point. If you don't drive, if you are someone that commutes, if you take a train or a bus or however else you travel, if you have noise cancelling headphones, this can be exactly the same. On public transport, I'm always wearing noise cancelling headphones. I'm not really listening to anything. I'm just blocking out the noise of other people and just enjoying the silence. So whether you do have your own mode of transport or whether you're using public transport, there are ways to do this. But incorporating that silent time into your commute or into maybe a journey to the gym or to the grocery store or whatever else, again, doing that on a consistent basis is going to carve out a significant amount of solitude for you and really give you that chance to recharge while doing something that you would be doing anyway. So that is number 1. Can you drive in silence? Number 2, in a similar vein, exercise. Most of us exercise, probably all of us should exercise. That's not always the case. But if we have an exercise practice, how can we incorporate solitude into that? So I've always preferred to exercise alone. I don't love the noise in the gym. I don't love going to groups. I find it's a little too high energy, a little too overstimulating for me. So I tend to exercise at home or outdoors alone. Now, how can you do this in silence, and how can this be beneficial, and how can you really tap into that solitude? I find that doing something that is rhythmic and repetitive is the best way. So for me, 9 times out of 10, that is walking, because I love to walk and I do at least 10,000 steps a day. So I walk if I'm walking myself or I'm walking the dog, I'm not listening to anything. I don't have my phone with me. I am just enjoying the sounds of nature and putting one foot in front of the other and really getting into that rhythm. And like I say, the idea for the Ask Me Anything August dropped in during that walk. Most of my ideas for content, most of my ideas for clients who, my clients live rent-free in my head all the time, and they may be going through something, and it's not just on the call and in Slack, that something might drop into my mind for them when I'm out for a walk. Running would do the same thing. I hate running, so I'm not going to do it. But I know many high achievers say that running is the thing that clears their head, or they'll start a run with a question in their mind or a problem that they've got to tackle. And then when they get into the rhythm of the running, they find that they start to get clarity about it and get ideas about it. Cycling, rowing, all of these things, really, really great. Very introvert friendly. Swimming, because again, very rhythmic. You're in control of the speed. You're in control of the stroke. No one's going to talk to you because your head's underwater. So any of these things that you can really get into a pace and a rhythm that feels very natural, that you're not thinking about, and you can do so without music or without instruction, is going to allow you, again, bonus solitude while you're doing something that you would be doing already. And lastly, this one takes a little more commitment, I would say, and requires a little bit more habit formation than the other two, which are essentially piggybacking and habit stacking on things that you're already doing. But if you're in a busy household, if you have kids, partner, family around, all of these things, I know it can be very, very difficult. Some of my clients have this exact situation, and they also know when they've not had enough time alone because their performance wanes, they feel frazzled, their nervous system doesn't feel good, they get irritable, they feel tired and they don't know why. And quite often we trace it back to the fact that they just haven't had that space alone. So if that is you, how can you carve it out without having a negative impact on family life? And the thing I always recommend is the 15-minute morning or the 15-minute evening. Where can you carve out 15 minutes for yourself? Again, even just 3 or 4 times a week, doesn't have to be every single day. So for most people, it's one of two things. It's waking up 15 minutes earlier than everyone else in the house. I know most of us will probably think, I want all the sleep I can get. But honestly, that's why it's 15 minutes, because it's not like getting up an hour before. It's not like having to get up at 4:30 or anything that's going to be detrimental to your nervous system. It's 15 minutes. So it's super manageable, but it's enough time that you will still get the benefit. So when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is make coffee. Whether that's good for my nervous system is another question or not. But I make that coffee and I sit with that coffee. I don't do anything else. I don't use my phone. I don't scroll. I don't read the news. I don't put the TV on. I literally drink the coffee and have that time that I'm drinking it, which probably, would make drinking it 15 minutes, for my brain to just ease into the day and just to have that silence and that solitude. So if you can carve out an extra 15 minutes at the start of the day, wonderful. Also, great way to set yourself up for the day with having your needs met and having your cup filled before you do anything else. If not, if that is not possible, if you say, I just can't get up any earlier, or I'm always, kids are up super early, then think about doing it in the evening. And think about, if you have a partner, like, do you go to bed at the same time? Can you go to bed 15 minutes earlier? And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go to bed 15 minutes earlier and I've got to sit in silence and meditate. You could just be pottering around. You could be getting ready for bed. You could be having a shower. You could be doing skincare routine. You could be doing any of the, brushing your teeth. But can you do those things alone, in your own energy, again, in silence? Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you could stay up a little bit longer if your partner goes to bed. Can you stay downstairs or in the other room or wherever you've been hanging out for 15 minutes extra, just to wind down, just to give your nervous system that quiet, that silence? And again, we're talking about 15 minutes, not scrolling socials or not watching Netflix, but 15 minutes just, alone. Maybe you could journal if that felt good. Maybe you could just think. Maybe you could just lie there. Maybe you could do some deep breaths. Like, you don't have to be doing anything, but the important thing is the lack of stimulation. The important thing is that you are in your own energy, which ultimately, when we're talking about solitude, that's what we want. You don't want someone else's voice in their ear. You don't want to be listening to this podcast. As much as I want you to listen to my podcast, I don't want you to do it when you need solitude. So that is my third, final, and probably the more challenging for a lot of people, but absolutely you will be rewarded for it with your energy. Tip is carving out that 15 minutes. So can you do it first thing in the morning, or can you create 15 minutes of space for yourself in the evening, one way or the other, whether it's upstairs, downstairs, whatever works, just to make sure you are getting your dose of solitude. Again, to be able to perform at your peak, to really reach your potential, to be exceptional, to give yourself the edge as an introvert, solitude is non-negotiable. We have been conditioned to think we should be around people all the time. We've been conditioned to think it's weird if we want to spend time on our own. We are in a society where there are notifications everywhere. There's tech everywhere. We've got TVs in every room. There's noise. There's social media. We've got phones glued to our hands. It's not an easy thing to carve this out. It's not going to happen. We have to make it happen. We have to be intentional about it. And like I say, if you are ambitious and you really want to achieve results, this is going to be the key thing in really solidifying any strong foundations for anything that you want to do. So thank you once again for tuning in. Like I say, very short but actionable episode. And I really invite you to choose at least one of those and give it a go, even if it's just for a month, and just see how much time you manage to carve out extra and how you feel for it, how your nervous system feels, whether you feel calmer, whether you get any insights, intuitive hits, good ideas, innovative ideas, whether you feel more creative, whether you just feel more overall energized. So I'm always curious to hear how you get on. You can email me anytime, hello@theambitiousintrovert.com. Obviously, please email me with your Ask Me Anything Augusts as well. And I'm excited to start creating some episodes full of the exact kind of content that you want to hear, because you will have set the questions. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling expanded to what's possible for you, motivated to take action, and inspired about how you can start to own your energy. I share even more tools and resources on my Introverts only email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the Ambitious Introvert products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of introvert-friendly inspiration. Sign up now at theambitiousintrovert.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes. See you next week.